Okay, there we go. Hello, everyone. Welcome to a new scientific moment. For those who are joining for the first time, this is a space for talks and presentation about technical topics around our technology, such as blockchain and cryptography, and so on. We are accepting new speakers, so if you are interested, please in talk on those in this space, please reach us on the research forum or the public Slack channel. Also, if you want to watch any of the prior SciMos, you can watch them on YouTube. That being said, today is presenting Ramses Fernandez. He's the lead cryptographer of IOB Labs and works in the Research and Innovation Unit, studying privacy-preserving techniques. His interests revolve around homomorphic cryptography, digital signatures, and post-quantum cryptography, among other topics. Today, he is talking about blind signatures, which are a kind of digital signature where the signer doesn't know what he's signing. In this talk, he will introduce the topic, the main concept and proposals, and a classic case of use, that is a voting system. Welcome, Ramses.
Well, first of all, thank you for the opportunity to share my stuff. And
sure.
Let's begin.
Okay, have a good one.
Okay, anyone can see this presentation, right? Okay, so let's begin. Today, as said, I'm going to talk about blind signatures, which is it's not exactly a new topic. Many of you may have heard about it, since it's somehow a classic, since its introduction by David Chong in eCash. But since its creation, it has been a pretty active research field, and it's once you get into the topic, you realize that it's somehow a kind of magic. It's this kind of things that the first time you propose yourself to do something like that, you think, well, it must be extremely difficult to get this kind of cryptographic primitive. And then somebody appears with a proposal which is extremely simple and easy to understand. This is one of the cases. I say, the objective of this talk will be a high level and introductory presentation on blind signatures. With high level, what I mean is that I will try to avoid as much as possible the mathematical technicalities. And if they appear, they will be essentially mathematics that everyone is somehow related or familiar with, like the RSA and so on. Exactly. Yes, that's basically what I have to say. Well, what's a blind signatures? Blind signatures are an extension, a kind of digital signature, which allows a user to get a signature on a message from a signer without the signer having access to the content of the message. So the signer doesn't know what he's signing. And what does exactly mean? I mean, what does being blind means in our context? Essentially, what it means is that if S is later presented with a message that he has signed, he will not be able to relate it neither with the signing session. He will not, or she will not know when the message was signed, and he won't be able to relate the message with the person on behalf he signed the message. So he will not be able to identify anything about the message, but the user will have a valid signature on the message. Are they new? As I said before, they are not exactly new. They were created by David Chom as a basic part of his anonymous electronic cash. And since their introduction, they have been a pretty active field of research. They have not been an intensive research field, but somehow, or from time to time, you find a new proposal on blind signatures, maybe based on RSA, maybe based on elliptic curves, lately based on lattices or even isogenies of elliptic curves and any other post-quantum techniques. So the main blocks of blind signature are, as you can imagine, a key generation algorithm, an interactive signing algorithm, and a verification algorithm. This is similar to a signature, to a digital signature. The main difference is that the signing algorithm is an interaction between the signer and the user. The basic functioning of a blind signature is user generate a keeper, the public and the secret key. The user U sends the signer a blind version of the message M, and I will explain later how you create a blind version of a message, underlined message in this case. S signs the blind version of the message and obtains a signature, sigma, and sends it to you. And then U is able to unblind sigma and get a valid signature on the message M. Among the existing proposals, we can find the first one, Shom's proposal, which is basically somehow a direct application of RSA, and I will talk about this one. You can also find blind signatures based in Schnorr mechanism. You can find signatures created for or focusing on Bitcoin, which are based in ECDSA and Bellier homomorphic crypto system. And then you have something called the Okamoto's proposal, and I will explain later why I included this one in the list, because Shom is related to RSA, it's pretty known. Schnorr signatures are very common in blockchain. ECDSA is a must in this field, but Okamoto's is somehow the outlier of the list, but it will be important to know about their existence. So let's explain how Shom's proposal works. First of all, we assume that we run the RSA parameter generation. So we have primes P, Q, the exponent E and D, and so on. And let's get into the party. U takes a random R from Zn, and it must be invertible, and sends the encryption of the message by multiplying M times R to the A modulo and to S. S signs the message, sigma, by computing the exponent, by computing M to the D power, and sends the result to you. And the only thing that you needs to do is to unblind the signature by decrypting the message. Essentially, this is all you have to do. And it's extremely easy to understand or to follow primitive, this example. Schnorr signature, especially Okamoto proposal, are much more complicated. And you will realize why in a few moments. Essentially, as you can see, the blinding moment is when you encrypt the message, and the unblinding is the decryption. And I say that that blind signatures include interaction between the user and the signer. And Shom's proposal is that easy that the interaction is in existence, so it's called a one movement scheme, meaning that the movements are the interactions, then the number of interactions between the user and the signer. So you can have one movement mechanisms like Shom, two movement, three movement mechanisms, which are the times the user and the signer exchange information. For example, Okamoto's proposal, it's a four movement proposal. So this is why Okamoto's is very important, and I'm always talking about it. Although not insecure, blind signatures of up to three moves are known to be hard to prove secure in the standard model. Does it mean that they are useless? No. It means that the standard model is the most general framework to prove that something is secure. Usually, what you prove when talking about blind signatures is that they are secure in the Oracle model, which is it's pretty common in cryptography to prove something. If you want to prove that something is really secure and extremely hard to break, you get this conclusion when you prove it's secure in the standard model. But the problem is that it's proven that blind signatures of 3 moves or less, which is the common, are hard to prove secure in the standard model. It's somehow like Gödel's theorem, somehow. The only proposal that it's efficient and secure in the standard model is precisely Okamoto's proposal, and it's a 4-movement signature, but it's extremely complicated in the sense that it requires a much more deep knowledge of or a much stronger mathematical background, and it's beyond the scope of this talk. If you want to get the details of Okamoto's proposal, the Research and Innovation Unit of IOB runs a lovely Medium webpage with all this kind of information. So, as you can imagine, blind signatures face a big problem. Signers are not used to sign something without any control. So anyone who has to sign something used to like to know what he's signing. And this is the main problem with blind signatures. The signer doesn't know what he's signing. So what people created was partially blind signatures, which allow the user and the signer to have an agreement before signing the message to explicitly include common information in the blind signature. So at least the signer may know that he's signing a transaction or a mortgage for his house. Which is the main difference? The main difference is a piece of information, info, usually in the literature, that it's included in the input of both user and signer. And when it comes to proof blindness and forgeability and any other properties related to security, or creating in the blind signature scheme itself, the only thing that you have to do is take the blind signature, put info, the info string, carry info all the way down of the mechanism from the top to the bottom, and what you get is a partially blind signature. It used to be less efficient, but signers are happy to cooperate with this kind of stuff. So let's talk about an application. Here we have the main applications are electronic cash, but it's the usual one. The other main application are voting systems. And here you have somehow a voting system based in blind signatures. You have 6 steps. The first step is the authentication of the user and casting the blind vote. The election authority checks the credentials, including the blind vote, and signs the blind vote. The step 3 is just returning the signed version of the blind vote to the voter. In a step 4, the voter unblinds by decrypting the message if we are using Shom's proposal. And then he just casts the vote. The voting center just verifies that it's a valid vote, which is because it has the signature from the election authority and counts your vote. This is the general stuff. Let's focus on steps 1 to 4 with an image. Essentially, what you do or what you are doing when signing a message in a blind way is you are putting a message into an envelope. You have to imagine this kind of paper when you have to sign a bill, that you sign a bill and it appears a copy behind the page somehow. It's a carbon somehow, something envelope. What you have to do is to put the message in the envelope, close the envelope, send the envelope to Bob. Bob, in this case, is the election center. Bob, without opening the envelope, signs it and sends it to Alice. Alice, the only thing that needs to do is to open the vote, open the envelope, and what she gets is her message with a signature coming from Bob. Or the election center or a bank or whatever. But the good thing is that Bob, in any case, knows what he's signing, and he doesn't know. Once in the future, maybe a few hours later, once you get or you present Bob with Alice vote, he will not be able to recognize at which moment he signed this vote and on behalf of whom. This is the funny thing of blind signatures. And I think that's all for the moment. I mean, I hope you have enjoyed the talk, and I'm sorry if I've been too fast.
There. Okay, thank you very much, Ramses. It was a really interesting topic and talk. So, is there any question for Ramses? You can write it on the chat. Okay, it seems there are no questions. There. So Raul Lapria is asking, does Bob know the envelope comes from Alice? You are muted. There.
He knows that Alice is sending something, which is encrypted. But the funny thing is that in the future, what you will present is a vote, not the encrypted version of the vote. So Bob will see a vote or a message with sign, but he will not be able to know that it comes from Alice. Essentially that. But he knows that he received a message, an encrypted message.
Okay. No more questions. I have a question, Ed. Can you think or do you know any use case in blockchain of blind signatures?
I have seen a few of them, but I can't remember now exactly. I can share it with you somehow in the future, but I mean, I have seen some of them.
Sure. Okay, it seems there are no more questions, so I think we can wrap up here. Thank you very much again, Ramses. It was a pleasure to listen to your talk. And again, if someone wants to present, just reach us on the channels we share. So thank you very much and see you next time.